Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make Drumcode style techno. As usual, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets and all that kind of stuff in this video in the description. And if you're patient on my Patreon, check there because it's all available already. Yeah, let's get started. So, we're at 127 BPM, a little bit slower tempo. You know, usually techno would be maybe like 130 to like 140 or even 150 if you're on that kind of wave. With this, you know, it's like 125, 126, 127, 128, even maybe up to like 130, like just kind of like more in that housey range, but still in the higher tempos, so it has a bit more energy. For this first sound we have here, we have the kick, which sounds like this. So what we have going on here is we have this kick sample. You can hear just like a pretty nice sort of punchy kick like you would find in a lot of techno sample packs. And then I have a bit of processing on it. So the first thing that we have here is a saturator. Here's without this. And then with it, so you can hear this is a really nice way, like right at the start of the chain, to just kind of fatten the kick up. It takes it away from just being like a dry sample and kind of already gives it some punch. You can see I've just got the drive up a bit, and I've also got the wave shaper on there. And the key with the wave shaper is it's very good for adding punch to your kicks. You want to turn the depth down a bit. After that, we have this audio effect rack, which I'm using to make the rumble. So here's without this. And then with it. So obviously this is pretty much the entire bass in the track. So what we got going on here is, like I said, it's an audio effect rack. We have a dry chain and a wet chain. And then on the wet chain, we have a few things which are creating the rumble. So the first thing that we have here, I'll turn everything off. The first thing that we have here is actually a delay going into a reverb. So typically, to make a rumble kick, you would use either a delay or a reverb going into some distortion and then into the filter and all that business. But I actually have both of them here, and the reason for this is, you know, this is basically the resonance that we're creating. We're getting kind of like a more rhythmic reverb because it's kind of like bouncing off the kick, versus if we turn off the delay, it's just like very straight. And then if we have just the delay, that would work really well as well. But like I said, I really like what you get when you combine them. So then I have those going into this amp, which sounds like this. You can hear, not only does that make it mono, but it also just focuses in on kind of the rumble in the low end, as you can hear. After that, we have an auto filter, which is just cutting out the high end. And so now we have just the rumble. And then after that, I just have a few fine-tuning things. We have this EQ8, which is cutting at 100 hertz to make room for the actual punch of the kick. And then it's also giving us a little boost in the low end to make this kind of more low end heavy. And then I just have a compressor, which is side-chaining this signal to the dry signal of the kick. You can see we've got the side chain set to the kick channel, and then I have this pre-effect setting there. So it's getting side-chained to the kick before any effects, basically. And yeah, that is it for the rumble. So after that audio effect rack, I have both the kick and this rumble going into a few effects. I'll show you. Here's without these. And then with them. So they're pretty important. So the first thing we have here is this drum bus. You can hear this is just fattening these up a little bit. This really helps after like putting the rumble on, because it kind of ties it together with the kick a bit more. And that's really the purpose of all of this. But you can hear, like, if I turn this off and then turn it on, the rumble feels a lot more even with the kick. Like, the key and the issue that I think a lot of beginners have is you need the rumble to sound just as fat as the kick. And the difficulty here is obviously the kick is a kick and the rumble is just some like rumbly low end. So stuff like this really helps to bring that fatness up. And speaking of that, after that I have this limiter. So here's without this. And then with it. So you can hear, this is just that last little thing that adds a little bit more fatness. And this really helps to glue these together. Like you can hear, this just kind of takes it from sounding like okay to really sounding full and professional. So I definitely recommend doing this. This may seem like kind of a weird way to do it, especially with all the limiter hate that is out there these days. But it's a very good way to do it. Like I said, like you're not really going that crazy with the limiting, but the little tiny bit that you are is really adding a lot. And then the last thing that we have on here is just an EQ8, which is doing a few things. I've got a low end boost and a high end boost, just kind of like giving us more thumpy low end and more clicky high end. And then you can hear I also have this cut here, which is cutting at 310 hertz, just kind of getting rid of some mud. And then I also have this boost here. If you boost around like 700, like right there, it's really good for like the punch of the kick. You can hear like without that, here's without that boost. And then with it, so it really helps to just give it that extra little bit of like kind of impact. And yeah, that is it for the kick. Next thing that we have here is the ride, which sounds like this. So it's pretty simple, just kind of like a nice ride cymbal like you hear in a lot of techno. You can see I've got it in here, and you can also hear I have a high pass filter on it. So this is pretty crucial with these. There's a lot going on. So you don't want to have the ride getting in the way of anything, so high passing it just kind of cleans that up and makes room for everything else. And then after that, I have this going into a few effects. The first here is this chorus and Haas effect. These are kind of working together. So here is without either of them. And then the chorus. And then the Haas effect. So you can hear what's happening here is the chorus is widening up the ride quite a bit. With these types of rides, you don't want it to just be straight down the center. It's not really going to stand out that well in your mix, and it's going to sound very thin and kind of small, even if it's like you can hear the same sound as this. So we have these things on here for the stereo widening. So that's what the chorus is doing. It's first just kind of widening it up a bit, adding kind of some of that chorusy like wateriness to it as well. And then we have this Haas effect. And so the Haas effect, I've talked about it quite a bit on this channel. Basically, it's just where you take a sound, split it into the left and the right signal, and then what happens is you put one of them ever so slightly forward. So in this case, like I've got the left ear being pushed slightly forward. Using a simple delay here, we just have an audio effect rack. Again, right chain is being delayed forward with a simple delay. Anywhere between like 10 milliseconds, 10 and like 50 milliseconds is pretty good. And yeah, and then the last thing that I have on there is just a drum bus to give it a bit more kind of strength. And that is it for the ride. Next thing we have here is the clap, which sounds like this. So it's pretty simple. With this one, it's more just about like getting a nice kind of fat sound like this. Like it's just a really nice, powerful clap. It's not thin or small. And if you want this clap, you can get it at the top of the description as well in the sample pack of this video. But yeah. And then the other thing is this little detail here. I noticed this when I was referencing a lot of like Adam Beyer's tracks. Adding in that little is actually kind of a nice detail, because you can hear like we get to the end of this little 2-bar pattern, and then we just have that little thing come in. It's a nice way to kind of tie it together there. And yeah, the next thing that we have here is this operator percussion, which sounds like this. So this is just playing 16 notes. You can hear I have these swung a little bit. This is really good for like that kind of driving groove, because if you just have it really straight, that's cool, but it doesn't quite remind me of the more like organic kind of human sound that you hear a lot on Drumcode and with these types of tracks. So yeah, just swinging these a little bit, I feel like really helps to bring it to life. And then for the sound on this one, as you can imagine, it's made using operators. So what we've got going on here is this. You can see we just have some white noise going into a bandpass. And then I have a redux, which you can hear is just very subtly adding a little bit of kind of crunch to that. And then we have this erosion, which really takes it all the way. And you can hear the redux is a very small detail in there, but when I turn it off and turn it on, it's adding just like a little bit more kind of fatness to it. So that's why we have this stack there. But that's a really good way to make an interesting sound, Bit crushing can sound very, like, obviously like bit crushing if you just use one, but if you stack them together and do it kind of creatively, you can come up with some very interesting sounds. After that, I just have a bit of drum bus, just kind of fattening that up. This also helps to take it away from just sounding like a dry sort of synth percussion. And then after that, we just have an EQ8 cutting out the line, and that is it for the operator percussion. Next thing that we have here is these two hi-hats, which sound like this. So basically, these are just playing on the upbeats. You can hear we have them layered together. We got this one. And then this one, which is a bit brighter. And then this one has got the hot effect on it. This one is straight down the center. It's kind of like, you know, the mid-range and then the high end, kind of layering them together to get the best of both. So then I have all of those percussions in a group together. This is just kind of like tying all the percussion together, making it more cohesive and making the overall mix sound better. Here's with nothing on it, on the group. And then with everything, so you can hear the difference there. So the first thing we have is this drum bass. You can see I have this on the hard setting, and this is just adding a lot of texture and fatness to the drums. Again, without it. And with it, and it also makes everything sound more cohesive too. You know, when you put everything through the same sort of like saturation or any kind of texturing effect, it makes everything kind of sound more like it's in the same world and like it belongs together a bit more. After that, we have this compressor. Here's without it. And then with it, so this is very subtle. You can see it's only compressing the peaks. I just have this on there, just kind of helping to make the volumes a little bit more even, you know. It kind of brings up some of that percussion and some of these sounds, and just, again, puts them in a more, like, even place, as opposed to just being all over the place. And then the last thing we have on there is just an EQ8 cutting out the lawn, and it's also boosting the high end a little. You can hear it's just cleaning it up a bit. And that is it for the percussion. Next thing that we have here is this drone, which sounds like this. So it's a very simple thing. It's just playing D. We're in D minor. And yeah, this is a sound that I hear a lot in like Adam Beyer's tracks and just a lot of tracks on Drumcode in general. Basically what it is it's just two saw waves here in analog going into a Formant filter. So if you don't know what a Formant filter is, basically a Formant is like a vowel sound like ah, e, I, u. All those are formants. And a Formant filter sort of takes like whatever sound you put into it, and you can hear shapes it using those formants. It's kind of like if you're going, it's like that kind of thing, like shaping it with your mouth. Same exact thing here. So that's what this is doing. And you can hear this creates this really cool little, like, nice sounding drone. It's very, like, dark. And it just sits really well in the mix. So yeah, and then the only other things that I have on there inside of analog is just a bit of vibrato to kind of give it some more like warble, and a unison as well to beef it up a bit. And that is it for inside of the synth. After that, it's pretty simple as well. We just have a bit of chorus, just kind of widening it up a bit of reverb as well to give it some more space, and then I just have a compressor side chaining into the kick. Same thing as with the rumble. This is side chained to the pre-effects kick, so we're not side chaining it to, you know, all that long rumble, just the clean kick. And that is it for the drone. Next thing that we have here is this first lead, which sounds like this. So this, I'll show you the notes on this. It's just playing this little pattern in D minor. Like I was saying, you can see like it goes to D here. So we have like D, E, the ninth, F, the minor third, A, the fifth, just an octave up, another D, and another A. So you can see these are all notes from the D minor scale. Like, it's not that complicated. These are all just different musical voices. It's just more about playing with them in a more interesting way, like going from between the low notes and the high notes. Just getting creative with stuff like that. For the sound on this one, I made it using analog. What we've got going on here is we have two saw waves. You can see I have them an octave apart. Those are going into a low pass filter, which has a bit of an envelope on it. You can hear that. And then the only other thing inside of analog there is just a bit of vibrato to kind of give it more warble. After that, we have a chorus. You can hear, makes it really big sounding. And then we just have a bit of echo doing eighth notes. Gives it some space here without that. And then with it, so yeah. And then the last thing on there is just a drum bus, just kind of fattening it up. You can hear the effect that's having. And that is it for the first lead. And then the next sound that we have here, and the last sound, is the second lead, which sounds like this. It's the same deal here, I'm just playing this thing in D minor. This one you can see starts on D. And then same thing, just notes from the chord. A, the fifth, F, the minor third, E, the ninth, and then another D. Not that complicated. For the sound on this one, it was also made using square waves. And what we have here, or actually using a saw wave. What we have here is, yeah, just one saw wave going into a low pass. You can see the low pass has an envelope on it. And the only other thing we have there inside of the synth is just a bit of unison to kind of, you can hear that makes it sound a lot fatter. After that, we just have a bit of chorus to kind of give it a bit more width. You can hear that. And then we have this echo doing dotted eighth notes as well as a bit of reverb. These are just giving it space. You can see with these both, I have them dialed back a little bit. Like the reverb is not doing a whole lot. Same thing with the echo, really. But these kind of spacey effects are still important, even if you just use them like a small amount like this. After that, we have just a drum bus, fattening it up. There's without that. And then with it, you can hear a big difference there. And the last thing we have on here is just an EQ8, which is doing a few things. I'm cutting out the low end. I'm also cutting the low mid-range at 330 to kind of cut out some of that mud. And then we just have a high-end boost as well. And that is it for the final lead. And that is also going to be it for this video, guys. So, I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Let me know which video you want to see me make next. As always, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets and all that kind of stuff from this video in the description. And if you are a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. If you've been thinking about becoming a patron, you can also check there. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And I'll see you tomorrow with another video.